What is up, friend and fellow anti-netter? What I want to talk to you about today is something that I've known, this concept that I've known for quite some time, and I have finally started to instantiate it and implement it in my own life. And it's pretty exciting. And by the way, at the time I'm recording this, I'm still kind of shaking off a little bit of a cold sinus infection. I won't get into the details. Just kidding, I will. Just talking about green shit, coughing that stuff up. Just a lot of just fantastic fun. So if you hear my voice being raspy or if I blow my nose, then, well, I apologize in advance. And I was actually going to record a podcast this past Sunday because believe it or not, I went into the office this past Sunday to knock out a little bit of work, and I cut myself off, and I'm like, I cannot do a podcast. I need to conserve my energy and focus on my zone of genius, which right now my zone of genius is in writing and copywriting and working on the next major program, the next major transformational top secret project that I'm been putting together for a long time now. And so yeah, I'm shaking off the dust a little bit. I haven't done a podcast on the drive to work in a while. And and by a while I mean 4 or 5 days. And what I want to talk to you about today is a concept called working on your business instead of in your business. And this concept was introduced to me, I remember back in around 2016, I was in the best restaurant / bar in the Virgin Islands called XO Bistro. Shout out to Cindy who owns XO Bistro. It is the best freaking restaurant and bar in this raggedy strip mall in Red Hook, St. Thomas on the East End, where I used to live in that area. And I was having lunch with a friend and a hedge fund manager and a oil trader. This guy's name is Bill Perkins. He's a freaking wealthy, fantastic, prolific, crazy, insane individual. He wrote a best-selling book called Die With Zero, which I did the copywriting for and helped him with, if you go to the website, and helped him with the launch of that book, which is now touted and shilled by the likes of those big famous YouTubers and solopreneurs like Ali Abdaal and all of those talking heads, but we know the real deal, the mastermind behind all of it is of course Bill Perkins, and of course I helped my friend Bill out with it. And I was having lunch with Bill in the Virgin Islands back in 2016, and I was describing to him, because at the time I was running a performance marketing agency where I was one of the biggest freaking advertisers on Google, and my claim to fame was, kind of still largely is, I was a one-man wolf pack. I automated my entire business, all of my media buys. I had a Python script that I wrote and named him Stewie, which I've later named my anti-net, Zettelkasten Stewie, which is kind of funny. And anyway, I hit a hard time in that business because it was everything kind of was just so efficient, but so streamed and so focused. I had to be super focused because I was a one-man show. And the old saying goes that, a business of one is a business of none. Well, at one point, freaking Google AdWords changed their policies, which affected my clients and the products that I was advertising. And then basically my business went from an insane amount of money to zero overnight. And, I was sharing this with Bill, and I was like, man, I do everything. I'm in the business. And he's like, man, you need to start working on your business instead of in your business. And at the time, I knew what he was saying and I understood it, but I also treated my business, and I still do to a large extent, as a craft and as art. And I love being in the weeds of stuff. However, the problem is with doing that is I took on 11 jobs. I was doing my QuickBooks accounting. I was doing the legal stuff. I was editing website footers. I was doing every single little atom and molecule that involved my business, I did myself. Okay. Besides, like, I enlisted help in writing. I spec'd out the work, but I enlisted help in actually doing the software engineering and Python programming to a offshore developer. But I did about 20% of that work, and 80% of it was done by him. But other than that, I did everything else. And I then, I kind of swing from the different extremes of the pendulum. And, later on, I in 2018, in 2017 and 18 and 19, I, co-founded a cryptocurrency business. And I basically, in the beginning, I did a lot of the stuff myself, but then I went to the other extreme and just I built out a 50-person marketing team under me. And I I kind of outsourced almost everything, even my zone of genius and copywriting. And that we had a lot of growth really fast, but at a certain point, the growth stopped. And it was, one of those things when you grow too fast, it's not a good thing. And most recently, in my whole anti-net Scott Scheper letter, world domination, building a movement, the analog way, the deliberate way, all around analog knowledge and creating these analog knowledge empires, these analog knowledge businesses, and also doing analog knowledge development. That's what my core focus is in right now. Well, for the past year and a half or 2 years, I've been doing everything myself. And I've finally hit a point where I'm okay, I need to enlist help. I can continue to do this. It requires a ton of willpower to handle the customer support emails and do all the little stuff, but it kept piling on and on and on. And after some time, and most recently, you've heard me, I've really tried to focus on my life energy management and what I allocate my time to. Well, most recently, I finally made 2 major dramatic shifts that have allowed me to start working on my business instead of in my business. And the first one is I've enlisted the help of a freaking fantastic podcast, basically show notes summarizer, who's probably going to be doing this episode, wherein I record this podcast, my thoughts right now, and then I basically send the file, okay, after I'm done recording it, and I'm driving to my office right now. I send the file to who I'll talk about in a moment, to my protege, and via Slack or via whatever, right, who then uploads the podcast. And then once the podcast is uploaded, I have another amazing person named Amy, and she is a fellow anti-netter and a subscriber of my email list. And what she does is she listens to my entire podcast, she extracts the notes, and she composes it into an email and sends it out. And the only thing I have to do is I literally have to pull out my phone and hit the record button as I drive to the office, and that's it. And what ends up happening is now I have a podcast recorded with my thoughts that, hopefully help you out and give you some behind the scenes principles and insights into what it takes to build a, solo knowledge business, a solopreneur business, an independent intellectual and creative business that ideally makes 6 figures a year. And so up to this point, and I've talked about this in issue number 2 of the Scott Scheper letter, what I would do on a weekly basis is I would spend, I would shoot at one point, a YouTube video once per week, and then I would write an email once per week. And honestly, the mind energy that went into those 2 things, the YouTube video would take up half a day or most of one day, let's say a Tuesday. And then the email would take up half of a day or half of a Thursday. And, the time, it doesn't take much time, but the mind energy required, it kind of drains you for your other creative work that you would otherwise do on those 2 days. And so now what I've transitioned into. And I think that's a good practice to do in the very, very beginning as you're building your organic audience, your organic tribe. But I've transitioned into, right now, I'm in a season where I want to invest and conserve all of my mind energy and allocate it towards writing my whole message, my video script of the massive program, and work on my massive program and the material of my high ticket, high value, high transformation program that I'm going to be introducing to the world, that I might have already introduced to the world by the time you're hearing this. So the season I'm in now is, okay, well, as I drive to work, I'm going to record a podcast. I'm going to finish the recording. I'm going to send it to my boy, my protege, who I'll probably talk about some other time and probably announce by the time you hear this. And then that'll be uploaded, and then Amy will transcribe it, and boom, I've got not only a podcast out of this, and the podcast can also be uploaded to YouTube. I also have an email out of this for my current email subscribers, and that's it. And so here I am. I'm 11 minutes into this podcast. I've just arrived at my office. I'm going to hit the stop record button, and then I'm just going to share this and send this to my boy, aka Nicky G, we'll call him, the boy genius, my Scott Shepard protege and my junior product manager, who I have just hired, and he's going to take care of all the rest of it, uploading it, naming it, everything else. So I'm going to hit the stop button, and everything else is now scheduled and automated, and this will probably come out, I don't know, like maybe a few weeks from now, and that's it. And yeah, so anyway, what I want to give you an idea to do is, at some point, you're going to hit a point after you've done like weekly emails and weekly YouTube videos. You're going to hit a point where you need to start investing your mind energy into working on your business instead of in your business. And so now I've gained about two days a week from this infrastructure and setting this up, and you're about to see even more growth. And yeah, so anyway, hope that helps. I want you to think about how you can make the transition at some point to working on your business instead of in your business, because once you do, it feels really good. And for me, it just takes me so long, like years, to make this transition, to finally do it. And I think it's better to, to hire and try to hire a little bit more slow than it is to do it fast. And the other thing is, it's way better to go with slow growth instead of just hiring too fast and growing too fast and then burning yourself out and imploding. So hope this gives you some insight. Keep this in the back of your mind for the next few months, maybe even years. And at some point you should, and you ought to, make the transition from, instead of doing everything yourself, to enlisting help and going the slow growth route and working on your business instead of in your business. Hopefully this gives you some insight, and always remember to stay crispy, my friend. Scott Shepard, over and out.